facing head-on the emotions beneath the surface as we bridge from an old world of confusion and lack to a beautiful new world of freedom, abundance, and love with straightforward truth and inspired hope is what you'll find on The Charla Anderson Show. Collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating. Here's your host, Charla Anderson.
Good, beautiful day, you beautiful, beautiful souls. This is Charla Anderson, host of the Charla Anderson Show, collector and connector of fascinating people, and everyone is fascinating, especially you. I'm so excited that you would join us today. This is, weekly show live, and then we get out with Win-Win Women. Love them. And then we go out on Poditize. They put it out on podcasts and Roku streaming and all those kinds of things. I don't even know how to do all that. However, I have an extremely fun and exciting guest today, and I will introduce you in just a moment. And as we always do in the beginning of my show, we're going to have a 22-second mini vacation. We're going to have a little mini vacation where we breathe in calm for 7 seconds, we hold for 4 seconds, and we breathe out gratitude for 11 seconds. And that's going to just help us all center. And, it's a little exercise we probably ought to get used to doing more than once a day, multiple times a day, perhaps. So here we are. Let's just breathe in 7 seconds of calm and then out gratitude. Ready? Here we go. Hold. Release. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us and just centering here, the Charla Anderson Show. And I've got a very special lady today that is in my senior tubers group. Some of us are a little senior, and we get to engage in some of these more fun groups than I ever did growing up, I think. At least senior tubers is a blast. And I met Debra there, and she is an intuitive healer. Unbelievable things that this lady has been through in her life. And I'm going to let her tell you a lot more about that. But she's the founder of this community for conscious living. And you've got a podcast too, right, Debra? Self-care for the soul. Self-care for the soul?
That's right.
Okay.
Self-care for the soul.
Very cool. Well, thank you for joining me today. And I would love, love, love for you to, just tell us who you are in this world. And then we'll talk about what you do.
Okay. Thank you so much, Charla. Thank you for having me here. And thank you, everybody, for showing up and for listening. What do I do? Who am I in this world? Is that what you asked? Who am I in this world?
Who are you
The
in this
existential
world?
question that we all ask ourselves, right? Yeah, that's an ongoing exploration. But in this moment, I would answer that as someone who is really passionate about really answering that question, I guess, and helping others to answer that question. Who are we in this world? When we take away, I believe that we come into this world as pure beings of light and these pure beings who know why we're here and what we're doing here and what our earth journey is about. And I could tell you some stories about that as well. And then, life happens and we get all this stuff pasted on. So one of my missions has been for myself and for others to really help us to clear all those layers of stuff that we paste over the who we are that help us to survive and get through this life journey and, as best we can, and to really uncover that and strengthen the inner light, the core being of who we are, so that is what shows up in the world when we are interacting and when we're in relationships and when we're serving our purpose and living that life fulfillment and on podcasts having fun, just showing up as our true authentic selves rather than hiding from and protecting ourselves with all of the layers of self-protection and preservation that we've taken on through our life journey. So
I was just on another mastermind, I believe it was, and they were talking about, people not being able, for instance, to lose weight, and once for years, and once they figure out the reason, or what that core reason behind it is, for protection, self-preservation from, I think at 4 or 5, 6, 7 years old, we get this, I'm never going to be hurt like that again. I'm never going to be,
yeah,
I'm never, I'm never going to be disrespected like that again, whatever it is. And then we start, that's who we become, right? We start
yeah.
building these layers and we forget that we actually made it up. We kind of made up the story
Right. Well,
around it, right? But I do,
yeah.
I have a friend that's, very, very happy. And I believe it has to do with childhood trauma that she's, you know, subconsciously probably, but wants protection from. So
Yeah.
I wanted to just start with something here, because you live in the Houston area. I was born and raised in Houston. We have a lot of uh, common interests, or commonalities, I guess, or something. Um, and so you're in the Houston area, south of Houston, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And I live in the Fort Worth area. I love Fort Worth, and even though Houston's my hometown, of course, I love Texas, but we're in a good state. And um, one of the other things that I believe we both have in common, we both had the barrel of a gun touching our skin or our
Yes.
body.
Yes.
You know, you I was robbed at gunpoint right here, and
Oh,
you were in a bank robbery and were the hostage, or the,
yeah. It was back here, right here. You could still feel the spot, right?
yeah,
Where
yeah.
that
No,
gun
it's
was
it's
touching.
it's a big deal. So I don't think most people have experienced that.
I hope not.
No, I hope not too. And, mine was who I was at the time, of who I, what I say, who you say you are is who you are, and who I had been saying, I'm bold, faith, no fear. So I had no fear in that moment. I'm not sure that that was your case, but I had no fear. Stepped towards a gun and said, you need love. And that'll be one of my books, the next book, probably.
Wow.
Because the story is, I stepped towards a gun and said, you need love, and they ran. So the not having fear is really the story. So
Wow. That's amazing.
and you were working in a bank. Do you want
Mhm.
to just, I mean, just a snippet of that story? It's there's, I'm sure it could be its own book too. So
Yes, right. Yeah. So I was working in a bank and, um, you know, oh,
you were in college, right? You were young.
I was just about to graduate from college. So I was close to graduation and I was working in the bank and yeah, just, um, walked right past the guy and even nodded and said hello. And as soon as I got right in front of him, he whipped out the gun and cocked it right in my, it was like a sawed-off shotgun thing he had, and cocked it right in my back. And I heard that sound, and it's a sound you'll never forget if you've heard it a little too close. And boy, yeah, it was right in my back. And my prayer in that moment was nobody play hero, you know, and because the security gun put his hand on his gun and he looked at him and he said, "Don't even think about it." And it turned out, well, I'll finish the story. He did, we all got down and he took the money and he got away. A week later, he robbed a credit union in Colorado. Some people may know that story. He even had our bag with him when he did it. At that time, there was a media helicopter in the area. He went into the credit union and somebody hit the button. There was a media helicopter in the area that followed him, got the whole thing on video. He took hostage. He killed a police officer. He did like all kinds of stuff in that one because it didn't go as he planned. It wasn't as
It
simple and sweet
escalated.
as ours was. Yeah, it escalated. And yeah, and then he was killed at the end of that whole chase, and the whole thing was on video. They ended up making a movie out of it, but the yeah, the whole experience was it turned out that he was an escaped convict and he had just escaped from prison. And our Texas Rangers were like waiting for us to identify him, and we were able to identify him in the photo lineup. And as soon as they were, the Rangers were right there ready to roll because he had done the same thing before, and that's why he was in prison. So it was, and he had, I was able to see his whole rap sheet. He had done quite a bit before that.
Well,
So
he might not have had a happy childhood.
might not have, no.
I mean, that's
You never
pretty
know where they've come from,
right.
or
And
where all of
everybody
us,
is
any of
hurt and
us.
everybody has a story, and some are harder and harsher than others, but you know, oh,
Hmm.
but anyway, the point is we have both had that experience, and we had different reactions to it. And I love that you said no heroes here, because I was a flight attendant for 34 years. And, when we were going through that hijacking phase there for a little while, but long before the 9/11 times, but everybody was trying to just get out of the country or whatever. Um, it's like, don't be a hero,
Yeah,
comply, do what they want, do what they ask. They were not typically early on violent. They just were trying to leave. And it seemed like a good idea to take an airplane of people. So I
yeah.
don't know. I mean,
I don't
I mean,
know.
in that instance, you're stuck in a tube in the middle of the
Yeah,
air. I never could
right.
figure that one out but anyway, that's a whole nother story.
That's a big story. Yes.
So but that's a commonality that I found that we had when I was kind of browsing through your incredible lineup of work, and the story of your life, which you know, you had a divine encounter. I believe I read that you had a divine encounter at
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
so did I. Okay, so I wrote a book about split second transformation. I believe you had a split second transformation.
I sure did. Yes.
Change your words, change your life. 31 daily practices is my book. But the
Yes.
moment when that happens, when something happens and you shift, I went from
Mhm.
bitterness to joy in that moment. So I know you didn't say much about it in the article I read about, because you were at a business meeting conference, right? And IBM, you were
Was
in corporate. and
right,
and
right. I wasn't
and
even looking for it in the moment. It just, I mean, that's how like crazy it was. It just happened. It was, yeah. So, it's interesting because I had been through, I'll just say after that bank robbery, I I did, like I said, it was just before college. I thought everything was okay. He got away. Everything was happy. But about a month later was when I started getting sick. Ended up with what was diagnosed as ulcerative colitis, but it was spasms in my back and in my colon, and it became ulcerated. And so that just really shows you how energy can penetrate and impact our physical bodies and our health, because when I went to a doctor, the doctor said, "Well, you just have to live with it. Something happens around your age, people just get it. You have to live with it. You can take steroids. You can never eat fiber again, no raw fruits or vegetables and no wheat breads or anything like that, And even though at that time I wasn't particularly, I was a college kid and partying all the time and eating the 2-for-1 specials, I wasn't paying attention to my health and my diet, but I knew that that was not a good lifelong recipe, what they were suggesting there. And I also knew that I still had that gun in my back and I had to get it out. So part of me had that, like, that knowing of this isn't right and I have to start, I have to do something about it. So I started reading about things and, started changing my diet. And I did a cleanse of my body, of my intestines, and I did a juice fast, and everything healed, which was amazing physically because I'd had hypoglycemia, fibrocystic disease, and the ulcerative colitis. All of it, I mean, took a little while to get to the point of figuring it out. And I did take the steroids for a little while, but I was just like, this just feels so wrong. So once I got everything on track, then it healed. It healed everything. Fibrocystic disease, hypoglycemia, and ulcerative colitis. That was amazing. It also, what I didn't expect was it just gave me incredible mental clarity and alertness. And then, going on about life, eventually I did have this total out of the blue spiritual epiphany because what I recognized in that was that I had my heart so guarded and shielded that I didn't allow myself to feel. And one of the things that really opened up for me is I could feel again. And it was an incredible experience. I mean, the whole epiphany experience was, I was with another person who was also at that corporate meeting that I hadn't met before. He had flown in from another state just for that meeting. And there was something there, past life, something, because when the two of us talked, all of a sudden, and this, may sound really far-fetched, but this happened, we were there for 5 days. It happened multiple times a day for 5 days, for the whole 5 days, that all of a sudden, when we would connect and start talking, we would be like sucked out of our bodies. And we just went on this whole journey. We would be in other bodies, other time, other space. We were experiencing the same thing at the same time. Like at one point, we were sitting at a table, and then all of a sudden, we were on the floor in a desert. And I was a Native American man, he was an elderly white man, and we were talking and we were friends and we knew all these things about each other. We knew, and yet at the same time, we still knew we were still sitting at that table. And then another time we went and he was a man and I was a woman. I had 3 children. I was so tired. I could see the house we lived in. I could like all of this. And I mean, this happened over and over again for 5 whole days. And what was the amazing part is the in between, kind of like when we went from here to here, it was like being sucked through a sieve. That's the only way I know how to explain it. It was like becoming particulate matter. Like you just got sucked out of this body, your particles floating through the cosmos, and you land over in this body. So, in that space of the in between, I had such an incredible experience of everything is love. Love is all there is. All of the things that I thought were so important weren't important. All I experienced and felt was love, pure existential love. And I also, I came away from there with a like a knowledge and an awareness and also like some visual and auditory senses of how our energies still live in our bodies, how the subtle energies communicate with each other, how the unhealed parts of ourselves still like hold these pieces, and how to unravel them, how to let them heal, how to release them so that you can be your authentic self, as I was talking about in the beginning. And I came away from there with, recognizing that what happens in this world, what we think we control, is this much, this teeny tiny much, compared to what's really happening in the unseen realms that's really like directing the show. So it was
I
very
love
incredible.
yeah, no, that's an incredible story because it's almost dimensions. I mean, I've heard that time isn't this way, it's this way, right?
Mhm.
It's layered. And so that I've heard many, many, many stories about people being in a different dimension at some point. And so was this gentleman that you were with, was he someone of a person of interest, or was he just somebody, I mean, like, like could date, or was he just a colleague that had he ever experienced anything like that before either? No?
No, not like that. It changed his life too. We talked maybe twice after that week, and he was engaged to be married, and he didn't want to cause any ripples in that. And there was nothing like attraction or flirtatious or sexual or anything. That wasn't the vibe at all.
Isn't
It
that
was just
interesting?
it was that existential, like, We came together, we experienced things beyond this realm, or beyond the norm of what we were used to experiencing at that time. And I mean, everything is here, right? Everything, everywhere, all at once, but it's all here. And and so, it's just like we had a new experience, and we talked a couple of times after that, and he said, I'm getting married. I don't want my fiance to be jealous. And I was living with someone at that time, and he was certainly jealous because just of like, wow, you had that experience with someone other than me. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, but I didn't really go seeking it, and I didn't have any control over it. I was shocked when it happened. And, but
Yeah,
yeah, it
and
wasn't
it
anything
is
like that.
something it's hard to explain, right? It's not
Hmm.
something, yeah. So wow, what an incredible gift if you can take it as a gift instead of, some
Absolutely.
people might be terrified or fearful or whatever, but you chose, and
Yeah,
it's an awakening of our divine purpose here on earth is, making unconditional love is my core message. I just love people, it just,
yeah,
and the harder they are to love, the more they need it. Right. So,
right. I'll
so,
include myself in that. Yes.
so I just think that's really fascinating because it's a split second moment in time that shifted your world, and you were in corporate for IBM, not big time corporate, for 15, did I remember
10
15 years,
years.
10 years?
10 years altogether. Yeah, before I finally, it was interesting because
It's hard to
while I
mesh those
was,
two worlds after you've
well,
experienced things like that.
yeah, the funny thing is, I think I could do it now, but at the time, because everything got blown so wide open, uh, Charla, I'll tell you that like there was one time I was in a meeting, and we're talking about brainstorming about technical things. And all I could see is I could see the energy moving like, okay, this guy got an idea. I could see it come in. It's like, okay, just came in. He got an idea. And then all of a sudden it shot from his third eye over to another guy's third eye, and it went into him. And he's like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I got it. I got it. So I was watching this occurrence. I couldn't participate in the conversation because I was so enthralled with just watching the energy move around the room. And I was like, oh man, I have no idea what the topic of conversation was, but it was really cool watching it. So I got like that for a while. And then eventually I just had this knowing that I was going to, um, I was going to on to different things. And I did. I ended up meeting a spiritual teacher, went to live in a spiritual community and study there and work there. And so that changed my course. I ended up doing one of those, okay, I'm leaving corporate, gave away everything I owned, sold my car, sold my house, and went to live there. And I was there for, quite some time. My teacher, I studied with him for about 20 years. He passed away in 2015. And I feel like I still continue to have that connection, still studying.
Well, that's no surprise, right? If you've experienced all that. So it seems like you've had more than just an empathic experience. You've had more of a, just a real divine experience where you were chosen, or you were saved in that, from that gun battle thing or the bank robbery for such a time as this, where you can
Yes.
actually speak up, speak out, and help people heal, because you're an intuitive healer, and you can sense and see things that others can't. And when the thing that I thought, you were talking about being able to heal so strongly your um physical ailments. So I know many, I have one of my dear friends that had less than a 1% chance of being alive the next morning after aorta split and all this stuff.
Oh
And I
my
wouldn't
goodness.
let them, I said, speak what you want, not what you don't want, to
Uh-huh.
the rest of us. And I wouldn't let them, I wouldn't let them. But the doctor said, I said, who created the doctor? I mean,
Yeah,
I was
right.
just on this thing I saw his heartbeat on an ultrasound. I was the only one in the room. And I said, if God can create it, he can heal it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And we have immune systems that are beyond anything that's out there. The pharmaceutical industry is an oil-based industry that was, they wouldn't even let you teach in medical universities one thing that was holistic. So
Yes.
that's still the case.
Right.
So it's not the people that go into the industry wanting to make a difference and heal and help, and it's those that are funding those institutions. So
Right.
I'm sure we could get
Right.
off on all that a little bit.
Oh,
But
yeah. You could go
yeah,
on a big tangent on that.
but
Yeah.
you've been a spiritual healer. You've learned. You're a teacher. You teach this to others, and you have your own. Do you have a space, a physical space, or is it all online?
It's all online right now. I don't have a physical space. That's, I did at one time, and then I moved and reduced the physical and went more online. But I still had a little bit. And then when my father is 101 years old. He'll be 102 this year. And when his wife passed away and he was living alone and he had some health challenges, I just said, "Oh, I could not um, stand the thought of him being alone. And, if something happened, if he got in trouble, just couldn't, it just like it came in me of he will not be alone." And so that was when I went 100% online, and now I live with him in his home. It's where I can be with him and, still it's the work from wherever job now.
Well, and what I've noticed that you are offering some amazing stuff. You've got weekly, I think Sunday morning weekly meditations that
Mhm.
and healing circles. And what's that like? Or who have you had any stories where people actually were healed? Or
So on that one, I really, you know, I think maybe because of my experience with not feeling and then feeling, I like to help people to connect with their hearts, because emotions are something that we are born with, but we are conditioned to shut them down. And so it's a every week I have a different topic, and it's an opportunity to uh, expand the heart, open the heart, soften the heart, be with the heart, listen for what are our emotions really telling us about what we need and what's true for us. Because when we shut that off, right, we end up living from the outside world and trying to say, okay, well, this will make me feel better. This will make me feel better. If only this person will change, or if this happens, then I can, have what I need in this life. We stop listening to the inside that says, oh, wow, why did that hurt? What is that telling me about what doesn't resonate with what I really feel in my heart, with what I really know inside of myself, with what it is that I do need? And so, it's a healing meditation. I call it the meditation and healing circle. And a number of people that come on that, I do, I think similar to your show, I'll have the meditation and healing circle where I'll just do the part that's, the healing that's going to go on the podcast. And then I turn off the recording, and people who are present live can ask questions, get support, share their experiences. And people do have some beautiful healing experiences during those weekly sessions.
what's the name
And
of your
that's
podcast again?
Self Care for the Soul.
Self Care for the Soul podcast. So if somebody can look it up and speak your last name, and then we're going to spell it.
Okay. Yes, good idea. My last name is Graugnard. And you might want to spell Deborah too, because Deborah spelled a lot of ways. I spell it Debra. The last name is Graugnard, which is G as in George, Rau. G as in George, N as in Nancy, ARD as in David. So not like it sounds.
So yeah, and I finally towards I was like, I bet it's Grenard because I was trying to figure it out. So you have a quote that you shared with me, and is it heal your heart, live sustainably, and foster peace. And I believe our goal here is to love each other enough that we do no harm, we love each other, and uh and foster peace. Just I think we
Yeah,
could get rid of a lot
I
of
think it
rules and
is just
regulations if we learn to do those things, if we learn to do no harm and to be kind.
mhm, absolutely. Absolutely. And we're always in various stages because we have been so conditioned, right?
Mhm.
We're all conditioned by our family, by our cultures, by our own beliefs, by, television, by whatever, right? We all have cultural programming.
It's all
And
cultural biases. I think is probably and massive programming.
yes,
So,
yeah, it's very well put. I would agree with that. And so, we're always in various stages of awakening, and there's always more here. I believe as long as we're in body, there's always more opportunity for peeling away the layers and awakening to more of like, oh wow, I didn't even realize that I was doing something habitual there that might not be in the best interest for the planet, for the planetary health, for sustainability of our planet. We're at a place right now, and I think, this is one of the things that really came together for me. It's like if we are living in harmony with ourselves, we are also living in harmony with nature. We, as human beings, tend to separate ourselves from nature, and there is, one of the Sufi sheikhs who I love his teachings, Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi. He says, "We are not on the earth, we are in the earth. We can't separate as long as our spirits are integrated into these physical bodies and we're having this earth journey experience. We can't separate ourselves from nature. And that's what humanity has done for the most part on the collective level is to separate ourselves from nature and to somehow think that we can dominate and control nature. But we are nature, and if we're going to dominate and control nature to the point where, I mean, I'm sorry, God does it best. If we're going to try to do it differently, we're taking something out of harmony. We're taking it out of its own natural laws of nature, we're trying to distort that. We're causing a negative ripple in the flow of energy on the planet, and we are not only harming all of the species of the planet itself and the environment, we are harming ourselves because we're not separate. So that is what I mean by with so much conditioning, we can continue to peel away layers and say, oh wow, here's another way where I can come into greater harmony with the planet and all of the species on the planet and all of the elements in the planet and the air and the water and everything. And when I do, I'll bring more health and harmony to myself and increase the likelihood of sustainability of our planet. And
that's
yes,
yeah.
that fosters peace because a lot of what our wars are fought about is all the things where we are trying to distort and control nature, and we're taking and owning lands and claiming territories, and we're depriving this group of the clean water, and we're depriving this group, and we want their resources and everything else. Those are the things that we fight about. And if we recognize, like, there's some ways where I gotta be honest with you, I don't see how, gee, my life is so um immersed in a certain way of being that I don't know how to do without that particular resource. And I recognize that we're fighting wars about it. But what can I do? What can I do? Still be at peace with myself and as much as possible to really, be in love with the planet.
One of my quotes in my little book, Candy Bar Hugs, it doesn't take much to make a difference, is unconditional love, unconditional forgiveness, not unconditional boundaries. And another
Yeah.
one is you can't change the world, but you can change your world, which changes the world. And
Yes.
I mean, it's just the truth. I pick up a piece of trash, do something, be kind to the next person. My mind is always, always, how can I leave it better for the next person? My mama said, leave
Yes.
things better than you found them. And that's just my mindset. I can't not do that. And I witness very closely, not many people seem to have that, at least on a personal level, just trying to, silly things. It's not silly, but taking your cart back, wiping the sink off around, so the next person's purse doesn't get wet, our phone. But
Yeah,
just doing small things changes everything. And especially, so Candy
it
Bar Hugs is about
does.
offering a candy bar to the checkout people instead of the big bucks people behind me, and then saying, would you mind if I give you, mind if I give you a hug? And this was in 2017 when I wrote this book, and it was about stuff that had been going on since 2013 or 14. So it's a long-term story, tiny book, big message. Just love the person right in front
Nice.
of you, and you don't have to worry about what your purpose is. Your purpose is how you treat the person in front of you. So
Nice.
that's all
And
all
that
of
really
that's in
does
that
bring
tiny little
fulfillment.
book. So
That really brings an incredible amount of fulfillment and joy. And, I know that it's a beautiful part of who you are.
well, they don't. Uh, there's I believe an agenda that wants us divided and fighting so that we can't focus on what the rest of the world needs. Right? We can't focus on helping our
Mhm.
neighbor because we're angry with them because they offended us. I mean, there's some the programming that we get from the big black box on the wall is real. So I'll go back to one other thing that I had thought about, and that is when you finally found your spiritual guide, your spiritual leader, your spiritual teacher. Do you want to tell that
Mhm.
story? How you walked in the room and
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, boy, I
I
had
bet
been,
it spills
since I
right
had that,
here. It's right here, right? That story.
yeah, right. Absolutely. Yeah. When I had that initial experience with the gentleman at the business conference, the after that I started seeking. And, just that was when I was really starting to seek and wanting to find how can I, like how can I learn more about this? How can I wanted to do more with it. Um, couldn't find it, not quite right, not quite right, not quite right. And I had this one where it was kind of a bad experience an unpleasant experience. And I went home, got on my knees, which was totally out of character for me, and started praying. And I was saying out loud, I just need a teacher. I need someone to come and take me by the hand. And I kind of looked up and I went, what? Because I was, raised
He's
Catholic.
like, who said that?
Yeah, I know. Like, okay. But right then it was like, and he showed up in spirit and showed up in, where started teaching me in that moment. And I could hear, I could sense, I could feel, I had a knowing. And I was really being taught about healing. I was being taught about, how to heal, how forgiveness and all of these things, and how forgiveness could really unravel so many things and just release it from your own self torment, right? That's what our lack of forgiveness does. It's more of a self torment, and how it could really shift things. But so many things that I was taught. I was even given prayers to say. And then one day, about a year later, I went to this where I ended up going to study with him. And uh, I went there and I walked into the room. He was in the front of the room, sitting on the floor and talking, had people around him. And when I walked in, instantly, my heart cracked open and it just melted and spilled onto the floor. And I just stood there looking at him and he saw me and motioned for me to come to the front of the room. I did. He put his hands on my head, said some prayers, and my feet didn't touch the ground for 2 weeks, and that was the beginning of that.
So the part that I was going to lead you to, I think, is where he said, you thought that he
Yes.
was going to see the bad in you because you weren't doing everything you wanted to do and all that. And can I say the quote, or do you want to say it? There's here, I've got it here. It
Well,
says there's a deep, deep longing for God. He was trying to ask you
yeah.
what's
He asked
going.
me, he said, in his accent, he said, "What is in your heart?" And I said, oh no, he sees the bad things, because that's what we think, right? Oh no, he sees my bad part. But yeah, he says, "No, beloved, a deep, deep longing for God." And that's when he put his hands on my head and said those prayers. And yes, and that was true.
It's masterful. So I have I'm a Zig Ziglar Legacy certified trainer, and I did a little 2 minutes talk, and I said, I know who you are. And we're all looking for that God-shaped hole in our heart. Right.
Beautiful.
And I believe that's probably the bottom line. We haven't learned to love ourselves enough to love other people. Or to understand that we're so connected, and this is a beautiful conversation. But so people need to find you. I'm sure there's in it, and you might want to. I don't know if you want to spell it. The Center for Conscious Living.
Community.
Community
for Conscious Living.com.
And that you can find a lot of your teachings there, and how to get to the meditations, and
yes,
a lot of things are free on there. And then I'm sure that you've got some programs that maybe are not, but teachings. And you became a master. You've ever heard of Matt Kahn? I heard him one time. He said, "A master is one who blesses." And I was like, that makes me a master. Because maybe bless me. And but bottom line, isn't that it? When you can just be still and know, and turn the noise off for a minute or an hour. We're so distracted that we can't hear that. We can't hear ourselves. We can't hear our inner voices. And so you're guiding people in these meditations to literally
it's healing the heart, and it is letting the mind witness the heart, like let go of the outer conditioning, but witness the heart and serve that rather than all of the outside stuff. So it's that. And I also incorporate embodiment practices so that we really have the be, so that we can really be the change we wish to see in the world. I'm a certified teacher in 2 different forms of embodiment practices. And so, it's like when we can really just be in touch with the depths of our hearts, the deep yearning, as you said. I love the way you put that, the heart-shaped hole.
It's a God-shaped hole. I did, and then I changed it to God-shaped hole.
Yeah, you did the heart. Yes, the God-shaped hole, but the deep yearning in our hearts, the deep yearning to return to that ultimate reality, that ultimate truth. And it's like when we can allow ourselves to be like drawn in to that yearning, and to like let that guide us, and really let the mind to be in service to that guidance, that which guides you to the depths of the truth in your own being, and then bring that into an embodiment, so that it's really in your cells, and it's really who you are, and you're grounded in your hips, and you're grounded to the earth, and you be that. That is just that beautiful experience of
just love. mean,
Yes, it's love. And it is where you can then
joy.
be, it's like you're being the change you wish to see in the world. You're
Thank you,
being the
Gandhi.
kindness. You're being
Yes.
the stability. You're being the stability and the security and the kindness and all of that and the compassion and the love, and you're just an extension of that. God willing, and I believe as long as we're in physical bodies, we're never going to be 100% perfect. So I won't ever claim that. Um, we're all still evolving, and our world is evolving. So that gives us higher places to go as our entire world is shifting and our collective consciousness is evolving. Even though there's all this crazy stuff going on in the world, it's like we can see that and we can really say, oh, okay, I'm going there. I'm going to be a part of what opens that door and paves that way and strengthens that presence of that consciousness on this planet, so that eventually that will be the place we live from if we don't kill the
I
planet
am
first.
outrageously optimistic. That's when whatever you say, this is a whole lot of my teaching. Whatever you say after I am is who you are.
Uh-huh.
If you say, I am sick, guess what? You are, or you will be shortly. If you say I'm tired, you're not going to get less tired by saying it. So change your words, change your life. 31 daily practices. You might just say, I'm energized, I'm pumped, I'm refreshed, and change your wording, because
Yes.
every word matters. This is the deal. People they dismiss it. Every word matters. And if you learn to be still and know, listen, if you learn to listen to your gut, your soul, your heart, instead of your ego brain, you will never be wrong.
Mhm.
You'll never be wrong, because and one of my things I say all the time is everything is always working out for me. Everything is always working out for me, even if it doesn't look like it or feel like it in that moment. If you say that,
Mhm.
it draws more things are working out for me to you, right? So this is a
Yes.
fun conversation. I feel like, and I'm attracting so many healers. Heidi, that's a brand new show host, just jumped on for a second. I saw her. Um, That's what she does. And I have an intuition coach. I mean, she teaches how to live in your tap into your intuition for business entrepreneurs. And
Mhm.
there's it feels like there's just a lot of this raising the vibration. If you just listen to your spirit, the Holy Spirit in you, you will never
Mhm.
go wrong. And
Yeah.
and if you do, you'll correct quickly, because you'll know very quickly. And I don't know. I'm very faith driven, and but not religious driven, right? So religion is the definition return to bondage, and I didn't know that. I was raised fundamentally, and I didn't want to do the wrong thing for my denomination, but that's not what God would say. God doesn't have a box. He loves everybody, and if God is
Yeah.
love, he can't be not love. If he is love, he can't be not love. That's my
That's beautiful.
that's my story. Sticking to it.
Yes.
So Deborah,
I
we're going to
love
just
that.
wind it up, and tell people again how to find you, um, and yeah, just how do you want to find you right now?
Okay. So the best thing to do is go to communityforconsciousliving.com, communityforconsciousliving.com, and you'll see a little thing to click on there that says join the community. What that does is it signs you up so that you can receive reminders of our Sunday meditation and healing circle. You'll also receive the replays. There's no charge for that. It's absolutely free. And these are powerful healings, so it's like getting free healing every week. And I've got on my blog right now, I've got like 250 at least, probably more than that, of past healings that you can look through and choose from. They're also on the podcast, on the Self Care for the Soul podcast. They're on my YouTube channel, which is Community for Conscious Living YouTube channel. So that's like, join us live, because that is when you get a chance. I'm always tuned into the energy of who's present. And so, I think you get a little extra, um, maybe personalized attention there, and you have an opportunity to ask questions afterwards. And so, or get support. Start there, and you'll also be notified. There's one thing we didn't get around to talking about, and that's a book that I'm working on that's called Food, Weight, and Feminine Power. And I'll just make a quick mention of that, because it really is looking at all of the, my issues manifested as digestive issues and bodily issues with all of the trauma that I had experienced are, oh boy, I mean, it's like this whole circular spaghetti bowl of how our traumas, our conditioning, our eating habits and patterns all work together to wreak havoc in our bodies and with our psyche about how we feel about our bodies and just our ability to feel safe in our skin. So that's what that book's about. And I know you'll want to, if you can relate to any part of that at all, you'll want to be notified when that comes out. So that will put you on my email list. I send usually 2 emails a week. One's a reminder, one's a replay. So I don't overdo on that, but, and I'd love to have you join live. communityforconsciousliving.com.
That's awesome. So we're winding down. Any final word? Any final gifts you want to share?
Oh, let's see. Oh, well, you mentioned gifts. When you do sign up to be a part of my mailing list, you do receive 2 free gifts. One is a one sheet that's just a reminder of who and what we are and what this world is about. The other is a 15-minute downloadable guided meditation to help you realize that in the core of your being, you are pure, fine light, unconditional love, and eternal compassion. Eternal meaning it spans beyond this time and space realm, and that is who you are at the core of your being. And that's what is there, that yearning, the deep inside of you that's calling you to come home.
And this is home.
Yes.
This is home. Your heart is home. I'm pointing to my heart if you're on the podcast and not the show. So this, yeah, you're coming home to that God-shaped hole in
is
your heart.
literally where the heart is.
And so there's so many more things I would love to delve into, but we're not going to do that today. We'll have to try another day. But it's been hugely beneficial, and I think a very enlightening and a lovely conversation. I'm excited, and I mean, I know you're in Montana at a retreat center for a few weeks or something, and that's kind of cool. Or cold, cold maybe. So thank you for joining me today, and thank you for your wisdom and your gifts and your reception to the words you were given, or the word you were given, or the wake up call you were given, perhaps. And because I don't think as a little girl you woke up going, I want to, when I grow up, I'm going to be a healer, or a spiritual guide or something. So it probably didn't work that
wasn't
way.
on the list.
No,
Yeah.
but what a gift it has become for so many people. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your light and your love. And I just
thank you so much, Charla, and thank you for all that you have shared. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
Well, we're having fun, aren't we? If you're not having fun, it isn't worth doing. Come on now. Okay, well, y'all have a great week, and I'll see you next week on the Charla Anderson Show. And remember to always choose joy.
Parting is such sweet sorrow. The Charla Anderson Show, encouraging you to stand strong and courageous with bold faith, no fear, immense hope, kindness, and love, especially towards yourself. Visit charlaanderson.com for replays, blogs, and more on her ever-expanding website, as well as watch her live TV show on winwinwomen.tv, Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And so that we can continue learning together and growing this community of beautiful souls, we invite you to share the Charla Anderson Show with your circle of friends. Until we meet again next week, remember always, choose joy.